You've got some super-duper little bits and pieces of jewellery here.
Oh, that's nice to hear.
It makes me smile to see a ring like this.
It's £15,000.
My dear chap.
Now, the sight of a box like this often heralds the fact that it contains something by Faberge. And when we open it up like this, we can see that it's certainly Russian, but not necessarily by Faberge. It's by another maker. You tell me about it.
Well, I'm surprised you said Russian, actually, because I inherited it from my mother-in-law, and her father, I understand, bought it when the Romanian royal family had to sell all their jewels and they were no longer becoming royal and they were sent out to Romania. So I suppose I sort of thought that writing on the box was Romanian.
Well, it's certainly in Cyrillic, and actually I think what it does say is that it's retailed by a jeweller called Malkanar, and then underneath of Odessa. And I think we can be absolutely sure that this is contemporary with Faberge, not only from the style of the box, but also from the style of the ring. It's made of platinum and gold and little calibre rubies, very bright little rubies, and centred with quite a substantial, brilliant cut diamond. And of course, everybody wants to know, do you enjoy wearing it?
Well, I do wear it on rather special occasions, I must admit.
Brilliant.
But I do enjoy wearing it. It's a very pretty ring.
And you can put it on your finger now and see what it looks like.
Right.
Does it go on there?
Yes.
What's it feel like to own a ring like that? What do you really feel about it?
Well, I always feel it's had a bit of a special history about it, and that's the part that's always interested me. You know, apart from whether it's a valuable ring or not, it's the history, and I've been wanting to verify, if I could, exactly where it came from and whether the story that I'd been told was true.
Absolutely. So I think one can say that it possibly is true, because the Romanian royal family might well have been given things from Russia. I mean, Russia was a great centre for the manufacture of jewellery and goldsmiths work, because it's an immensely rich country, actually, and was probably worn by somebody of quite high status, I imagine, either in Russia or possibly in Romania. I think it's very harmonious. I think it's a perfect design, perfect material, perfect history, and obviously very contemporary and wearable, because there you have it.
It is.
So that's all going to add up like mad, isn't it? Have you ever thought what it might add up to?
Well, I have had insurance valuation probably about 12 years ago now, so I don't know whether it's
Well,
up to
I'm
date.
going to sort of make a stab at it, and I can't see much hope of buying a Russian ring like that really for much less than about £7,000, £8,000, £9,000.
Well, that's very reassuring, I think, so thank you very much, apart from anything else.
Good. Well, it's been a great pleasure to see it, and I think you wear it very well.
Now, I think it's true to say that this sort of little ring with a little stone would pass a lot of people by. What do you know about it?
Only that it belongs to my mother-in-law, that's all, and she came by her mother-in-law, which was my late husband's grandmother.
So we're looking at what, around about 1900, that type of period?
Oh, it must be, I should think, yeah.
Because in fact what it is, it's a typical late Victorian type of setting. You've got a gold ring which is gypsy set with a stone. Plain gold, broad trumpet front to it, typically the sort of thing that you would see in around about the late Victorian period. Now the blue stone is in fact a diamond, and that makes it very special indeed. It's a blue diamond. To see a blue diamond of this kind of colour is extremely rare, and in fact perhaps one sees one per year or 2 years. They are that rare. I think a lot of people assume that they come in white, but they also come in lots of fancy colours as well, of which green and blue and pink are probably the rarest colour to find. Because it's a Victorian stone, it means that all the weight of the stone is at the back of the stone. So in fact the weight of the diamond probably weighs about 0.4 of 1. So it's approaching ½ a carat in size. So what are we going to do with it? How do we assess the price of something like this? Because of course it is a specimen stone. There are so many variables that would apply to something like this. What we would have to do is to take the stone out and send it across to the United States for certification. Because unfortunately it's only in the United States that fancy diamonds like this get a certificate that purchasers have sufficient confidence in. Just to give you a suggestion of exactly how many levels of blue there are: fancy grey blue, fancy intense green blue, fancy blue, fancy greyish blue, fancy grey blue, fancy light greyish blue. All these are different subtle nuances on blue. Now, I think that's a smashing colour. I think that's a beautiful depth of colour. And I personally haven't seen an old Victorian stone with that depth of colour. So looking at a kind of a precedent that's been set, a diamond that was a round, brilliant cut, that is a more modern cut stone, that weighed 1/3 of a carat, 0.32, remembering I'm assessing this at around about 0.4 to 0.45, was sent to the United States for certification. It was subsequently put into a sale in New York, and in 1996 it made, believe it or not, US 42,000.
Good God.
That's 132,000 a carat. Now, it would be very dangerous indeed to sit here and say that that diamond is going to be worth that kind of money. You're going to say to me, well, all right, what is it worth potentially? All I can say is that it ought to be worth, say, between £10,000 and £25,000. Is that a shock?
It's a lot more than I thought, yeah.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah,
I'm sure it is. It's the most
yeah.
extraordinary find, and you know, it's thrilling. One doesn't see these things, so to see one brought in on a roadshow, well, it's fantastic. Very exciting.
Wow. Say, what a marvellous brooch. My goodness me. Is it a family one?
Yes, it came from my great-grandmother to my mum, to my nana, then my mum, and then it's passed down.
When do you think it was made?
I haven't got a clue.
Come on, have a go.
Great-grandmother, so 18-something.
No, absolutely not 18 at all. This is actually a 20th century brooch, so maybe the story's got a little bit sort of embroidered. And the point about it is that it's a 20th century design. It's a very Art Deco design, a very Odeon style object. And if one looks at it quite carefully, it reminds you of a visit to one of those enormous cinemas with a decoration around the ceiling. What's even more special about it is that the diamonds used in its manufacture are modern cut. And what's frowned upon when you find a jewel like this is to find older cut diamonds that have been used for jewellery in the past included in such an object. And this is absolutely not the case. These long diamonds here we call baguette diamonds, and they're used to great effect to a rather geometrical design that actually in this instance owes its origins a bit to Mexican design. And here in the middle we've got rather a substantial, brilliant cut diamond.
So it is a diamond in...
Oh, it's a diamond.
I didn't think
You didn't think it was a diamond? No, no, goodness, no, it's quite a good thing. Curiously enough, with diamonds, if you want to make an immediate judgment as to whether a diamond is a diamond, it's the imperfections in it that tell you instantly that it is. Deep in the diamond, almost imperceptible without a very strong lens, a black deposit, which is a piece of carbon that's not crystallized. Diamonds are simply crystallized carbon. It's an element expressing itself in this particular way because of intense heat and pressure many millions of years ago. There are some problems with it that I noticed as I turned it over, that it's out of true. Had that damage been more critical, then we would have been in serious trouble, but we're not really. And it needs cleaning and a little bit of adjustment. And you know the direction to which this is all leading, don't you? That this is a really substantially good, valuable object. If there's a chance of putting a name to it, a maker, then that would add to it even more. But you have to brace yourself, strap yourself into the seat, because we've got a really, really good one here. And if you went into a West End shop to buy such an object again, I think it's possible that they would ask you £12,000 for it.
Good God. Dear me, I didn't think it was that bad. We didn't think these were diamonds.
No, well, they are diamonds. They're all diamonds, and you've got a very valuable brooch.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for bringing it.
Thank you very much for doing it.
Thank you.
A couple of weeks ago, I was doing a valuation for a customer, and we were chatting, and she said to me, "Tell me something, what's the most important feature about a piece of jewellery?" And I said to her, "Do you know something? It's how wearable the item is." Now, these two pieces of jewellery are incredibly wearable. They were made in totally different countries, both made in around about 1905. Now, what's the background story with them?
I inherited them from an elderly neighbour. She in turn got them from her maiden aunt, who did a lot of private nursing. If she hadn't killed anybody off in the process, they usually gave her a parting gift.
Well, as far as the story about killing them off is concerned, I'll set that one to one side. All right, well, let's take the small one first at the bottom. Brooch, it is enamelled. It is fashioned as a heart. In the middle is a flower. The flower is set with a sapphire in a border of half pearls. Where would it have been made? In this country.
Right.
So that's that. Now we'll leave that one. Let's have a look at the piece at the top. She's very, very similar because of the colours, but a totally different piece. Now, do you see here at the top, there's a little gold suspension ring. Now, that is stamped with a little mark 56, which tells me it is Russian. The flower, isn't it sweet? Do you agree?
I do. I haven't worn it more than a couple of times.
I'm glad you haven't worn it very much because it's also in surprisingly good condition as well. Now, can you see the two little leaves are set with sparkly white stones? Tiny chips of, guess what? They're diamonds. Little rose-cut diamonds.
Right.
And a little bud of ruby. I think you'll find that's probably a Russian ruby.
All right.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about what their potential value is. Have you ever had them valued?
Well, I did take them to Cardiff and showed a local dealer,
Right.
and he offered me £180 for the both of them.
All right. This little sentimental brooch is very sweet. That would sell in auction for probably £250 to £300. So there's your offer in one piece. The Russian 1905 pendant at auction, talking about £1,000 for it.
Good gosh.
You've got some super duper little bits of pieces of jewellery here.
Oh, that's nice to hear.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I love to see a jewel in its original box. And this definitely looks like it's been on a real journey. Tell me about the journey.
Well, my granddad bought it for my nana in probably the 1930s or 40s.
It's quite a big ring. Was it an engagement ring?
I don't think it was engagement. I think it was probably a dress ring.
A dress ring?
Yeah.
Then this probably was worn for special occasions. What occasions would your grandparents be going to?
Well, my grandparents were publicans, but they had lots of society dues. I don't know if you bought it for a dress ring or for love or whatever.
Well, I think a bit of both.
Probably.
I mean, it's because it's quite a big diamond.
It is.
You know,
it is.
It's just under 2.5 carats
Right.
in size. And it is set in platinum and 18-carat yellow gold. And it's got 2 diamonds on the shoulders, and they're with single-cut diamonds, so not the full brilliant cut diamond. And it really does sparkle. It's fluorescing.
Right.
So if I put an actual UV light on it, not all diamonds do this, but some diamonds do this. Can you see how it just looks like if you go into a disco, that would light up like a beacon?
Yes.
And you say that it was given in about the 1930s. Well, that's about right for the style of cutting.
Oh, good.
So when I look at the stone, it's actually, I can see roughly when it was cut.
Right.
And what's giving this away is that normally with brilliant cut diamonds, they have what's called the point or the culée at the bottom, and it goes to a point. Well, up until about the 40s, there would be a slight gap at the bottom.
Right.
So it would have sort of like an extra facet at the bottom of the culée.
Right.
And this has that.
Oh.
You've probably noticed it's quite yellow.
I only know it's always been called a yellow diamond ring. Is it?
Well, it is. We always think of diamonds as white diamonds.
Yes.
And then the more yellow there is in the stone, the less the price. I like it. I really like this yellow. And I think we were getting a little bit fixated by it has to be really white. You know, this has real character to it. Coloured diamonds, we're now look to see if they are fancy colours. And there's various degrees. It's sort of like fancy intense, fancy vivid, fancy light,
Yes.
yellow. And I think this probably could be a fancy light yellow. It does have quite a large flaw inside the stone.
Right.
It's got 2, in fact.
Has it? Oh.
So, but you know, these are natural flaws. It's been there. It's nothing that you've done to the stone.
No.
But when you're pricing a stone, we have to take that into account. So the colour, the cut, the clarity, and the carat weight. So it's the 4 C's, as you've probably heard. At auction, you're probably going to be looking at in the region of about £4,000 to £6,000.
That's lovely. Thank you very much indeed. That's wonderful.
But I just think it's just got so much character, and to see it in its original box, it just makes me feel very excited.
Thank you very much indeed.
Enjoy it.
Thank you.
This is a wonderful jewel. When I saw it, it invites you to pick it up because it's so exotic. I even tried it on. It's quite small.
It is quite small, but
it's big in stature.
yeah, and it's heavy.
And it's heavy. So tell me, who wore it?
My father,
And is this him here?
yeah,
What was his job?
he was a doctor in Thailand.
Was he a doctor to anybody particularly?
He served the Thai royal family throughout his career, and after he retired from his doctor, he went on to be a human rights commissioner of Thailand.
Oh my gosh, so quite an incredible career.
He worked until the last year of his life.
Oh my gosh. And when did you receive it?
My dad passed away 11 years ago, but 2 years ago when I went back home in Thailand and my mom asked me if I would like to keep some of his jewelry.
Do you remember him wearing it?
Yes, I do, vividly.
Clearly, he loved his gems and jewels.
Yes.
That's quite a ring to wear.
You know, he loves wearing jewelry, and he actually wears jewelry daily.
More than one ring at a time?
No, not at a time, but, you know, he picked which one he wears, you know, today. You can see that, you know, there is some damage because he wore it so often.
The emerald has got two quite large chips, unfortunately, but still, it is such an impressive ring. And it must have been made in Thailand.
Yeah, I believe so.
Because, and why I say that is because if you look at the side here, the embossed chasing, it's superb.
It is amazing, you know, the way that the design go around.
Yes, it goes all the way around. You've also got these 4 rose-cut diamonds.
Oh, right.
And you've got this sort of purple, lilac and green enamel. It's sort of like the lotus flower almost. Really stunning. And it's in 22 karat gold. I mean, it's in a very high karat gold. But of course, there's no marks here.
No, it's not usual for old Thai jewelry to have hallmarks. I have absolutely no idea how old it is.
1940s, something like that. And of course, emerald was all about hope and rebirth and nature and paradise. It's a wonderful stone to feel connected with.
That sounds lovely.
I have to value it as it is with the emerald chips, unfortunately. And I would say that in auction, you would be looking in the region of about £6,000 to £8,000.
Really? Wow. Okay. I didn't expect that. Thank you.
It makes me smile to see a ring like this. It really does. It's beautiful. And thank you very much for sharing it with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.
And my dad.
And your dad. When I opened the box and saw this opal, oh my gosh, it is superb. And then I opened another box and see this fabulous diamond. Tell me first, how did you get the opal?
The opal actually came from my husband's family because his father went to Australia and I think he brought it back because he loved opals. So I just have to say at the beginning as well that I have given all of these already to my daughters. So
that's a caveat now.
I have that clearly now that they all have it.
With these stones, they are over 100 million years old. There was an actual inland sea called the Artesian Basin. And when that receded, it left soluble silica. And that hardened and solidified in cracks and voids. And 2 places in Australia where that now is seen is Lightning Ridge and Coober Pedy. But it is Lightning Ridge where you get what's called the black opal. But they are incredibly rare. And when we say black opal, it is because it's got the dark background as opposed to other opals where you will have a whitish background. This is just a fabulous example. I mean, it is the complete colour of the rainbow, and they've always been a sign of good luck. I know people think that opals are bad luck, but they're not. Now, this is actually set in about late Victorian period. It's museum quality. And you've got these wonderful graduating diamonds, cushion-shaped diamonds around, and it's set in silver and gold. Now, tell me about this one.
I think it's hideous.
Now, that's not what I was expecting you to say.
Well, it's completely unwearable.
Right, OK, carry on.
And it's known in the family as a soup plate. Don't ask me why it got called the soup plate. I've no idea. But it came to our family through an uncle who used to do a grand tour in the summers. And he would insist that all family members were nice to him when he came round.
Was that hard?
Well, not at all. I think my mother was very good at it because she was the one who was then given this brooch. And then she gave it to my elder brother. But after a few years, he sort of went tapping on her door and said, actually, Mum, what I really need is a septic tank. And she said, well, if I give you money for the septic tank, I'll have my brooch back.
Well, it is a late Victorian, silver and gold brooch. And you can take off the brooch fitting and make it into the pendant. That centre stone is quite a large diamond.
Yeah, it is quite big. But it's not a very pretty one, though. It's.
But why do you say that?
Well, it's a sort of slightly dull yellow.
The diamond itself is probably about 8 carats. Now, you're right, it does have a bit of yellow in it. And then the more yellow there is, the cheaper the price. Now, things have really changed in the last decade. There's been more appreciation of stones that are not your flawless. They all look the same. They've all got the same proportions. This, I can feel the hand of the cutter because it's not totally done by machine, it's done by hand. That is going to be in the region of around about £35,000.
Right.
So with the opal at auction, you'd be looking at £40,000 comfortably.
Oh, well, my daughter will be very pleased. It'll be her running away fund, too.
Why, was it your running away fund?
Yes.
Thank you very much for bringing them in. It really has made my day.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you like them.
Well, the watch you brought in today certainly can't be described as subtle, discreet, or hiding its light under a bushel. It's fantastic. It's a gold Rolex, diamond set bezel, diamond set dial. It's an iconic watch from the 1980s. Can you tell me how it's come to be in your possession?
Yeah, it's my father's watch. So he passed away in the late 80s, and then obviously it's been passed down to myself. So we've kind of had it sat in a vault until I was a little bit older, and yeah, it's now my watch.
So if you're a successful business person in the 1980s, this would certainly be the watch that you would be wearing. The model is called a Rolex President. Was your father a Wolf of Wall Street?
I think he'd probably like that. Yeah, he was. He had his own business. He started out, well, very working class family from Hull originally, and then worked his way up and eventually owned his own printing and labelling companies.
We've got 3 different dials. We've got the original bezel. So this was the first time in a watch where you actually got the full day written out. They're normally in this little side window, just with 3 words, say, WED for Wednesday, FRI for Friday. But on this particular watch, you've got this complete window at the top showing the full day name.
It's a statement piece, and I think it was very much his pride and joy. So every picture you had, it was watch was out in front. Yeah, he was very well known for it, to be honest with you. And
was it a special thing? Did he keep it hidden away, or was he wearing it every day?
No, daily. He never took it off. It just epitomises him as a person, really. So from our point of view, it's just a very sentimental thing that we've had in our family for a while now. So
we've got the gold Rolex watch, but also you've got this wonderful box. You've got the original guarantee certificates, lots of paperwork. You've got 1, 2, 3 dials. These can be worth about £300 each. And the watch itself, at auction, you're probably dealing with around £12,000 to £15,000.
Wow, very good. Wouldn't sell it though.
But it's a lovely watch, and he sounds like a fantastic character. I'd love to have met him.
My dad liked the expensive things in life. He very much had a penchant for flash cars, nice watches. It was nice just to understand a little bit more about it and what its potential worth is, but it's very much a sentimental thing for me, so yeah, it'll stay in the family.
I think when you first look at this plaque, you think it's a piece of costume jewellery because of its shape and style. Is that something that you thought of, or?
Well, I was 15 when I got it. It came in a rather untidy box just of bits and bobs from my auntie. I just liked it, so I kept it safe and occasionally wore it.
I think it's good that you kept it safe because it does have a value, and it's quite a piece that you could date quite precisely because of its design and style. Now, first of all, this material that looks a bit like a cloud formation or a snail shell, which you might think is just glass, is actually rock crystal. So it's a natural crystal form. This flash of colour in the centre is actually a line of fine Burmese rubies. And then the white stones on the borders of the rubies are, of course, lovely diamonds. So you've got a complete mixture of precious stones in a natural-looking hard stone rock crystal border. Now, its shape is a bit peculiar because it doesn't look very much like, well, would you wear it as a brooch? Would you wear it? How would you wear it? And then you turn it round, and the explanation is there because it is a lapel clip. You've probably seen that if you, just there, above that little space, there is a word. Have you ever seen that word
I've
before?
looked at it and it says Chaumet.
Chaumet, exactly, because Chaumet were a firm of manufacturers making jewellery, particularly very fine pieces in the 30s. And they used to make jewellery that had a tremendously pronounced style. Now, the firm itself actually goes back way into about 200 years old, something like that. And they were patronised by Napoleon, and they go back a long way. And some of their jewellery makes a great deal of money. This clip, although it's a fairly modest piece, really, it's not got a big flash of diamonds, it's not what big chunky stones, but because of its singularity, the fact that it's signed Chaumet, made in France, and smothered all over the bottom of this clip are the little French control marks. So it's got all the right things there that we look for. Platinum.
Platinum.
It's not white gold, it would be platinum. The Burmese rubies in the centre and the quality of the brilliance flanking the rubies themselves do make it quite valuable. So I think if it was sold in an auction, we're looking at something in the realms of £2,000 for it.
It was my great-grandfather's.
So how long ago would that be?
Maybe 1910, but we don't really know when he would have had it, but we think maybe around that date. And it's just been passed down through the family, and it now belongs to my brother.
And do you have any idea where it originated from?
We've just been told that it's a Brazilian yellow diamond, and apart from that, we don't know a thing.
Well, it's actually interesting you should say that it's Brazilian, because nowadays most people associate diamonds with southern Africa. But in fact, diamonds were originally found in India, and all the diamond mines were worked out about 1725. And then, very conveniently, around the same time, they found them in Brazil. And the Brazilian mines went on until they found diamonds in South Africa, which was not till pretty late in the 19th century. So it's very likely that this diamond did actually originate from Brazil.
And did they specifically find yellow diamonds in Brazil?
Well, they find white, yellow, all colours, because after white diamonds, the range goes from yellow to brown, and this is actually quite a good colour yellow. It's not a really strong, fancy, intense yellow. Also, the cutting's quite interesting because it's a 19th century cut. You'll see it's not round like most modern cut diamonds. It's more what's called cushion shape, TV screen shape, I would think. And also, if you look through the stone, you'll see that there's a slice off the bottom.
You can see
it's called
right
the culet, and that's something you don't get in a modern diamond either.
So do you think it's always been a ring?
No, I don't think it's always been a ring, because actually the stone is much older than the setting. And with diamonds, they tend to get unset and reset and unset and reset, and it happens all the time.
So what kind of dates the setting?
Well, the setting probably dates from around 1910, because it's platinum, and platinum's a great material for mounting jewellery because it's very hard. But they hardly used it at all because it's very difficult to solder until around 1900, when they improved their technology. It's quite a big stone. I got a little gadget here that sort of very roughly measures the size of diamonds, but it only goes up to 2.5 carats, and 2.5 carats goes nowhere near that. And also these stones are quite heavy because they cut them much deeper than modern stones. So I think that this stone probably weighs somewhere between 4 and 5 carats. It's quite sizable. So you don't actually have this insured or anything as well, it doesn't have insured.
It's on the household contents insurance.
So you get £500 for it if it was stolen?
Something like that.
If it was a really, really strong yellow colour, it'd be worth a huge amount of money. But even with this pleasant yellow colour, weighing between 4 and 5 carats, this has got to be insured for, well, at least £12,000. Anything between 12 and 15,000, I would say.
That's quite a lot.
It's really a super ring.
The balance of this for me is perfect. I love the whole shape of it, and I'm particularly fond of pendants, but is it something that you particularly look at and think this is a very, very pretty piece?
Yes, it's a beautiful piece. The shape of it's lovely, and just the emerald drop is absolutely beautiful. And remembering that, it was my mother-in-law's, it makes it very special.
Yes. I mean, all the right sort of ingredients are there. You've mentioned what the principal stone is there. They're interesting, because they're not always fantastic quality. No. The best of them come from Colombia, and they are characterized by this very intense blue-green color. Then they get very wishy-washy sometimes, and they get so pale that, frankly, they look like very, very pale sort of marked glass. But the very best ones come from Colombia, and it's got that intense blue-green colour. So, looking at the diamonds, we've got this, what you might call a sort of stylised palmette-shaped top to it. The diamonds themselves are set in individual little settings where you've almost got a cup that grips the diamonds in place. The front of it, incidentally, is all mounted up, as you might have thought, in this very white finish in platinum. But then when we turn it over, look at the back of it, we see that it's actually backed in yellow gold.
I've never noticed that.
It's unusual that you see that sort of yellow mount. Now, that means we can date this probably to around about 1905. Right. After then, the jewellery was more or less totally superseded by platinum. So it's quite an early piece for its period. On the platinum chain, let me just have a look at that. What an emerald. I mean, it really is a cracking stone. It's a really deep blue-green colour of an intensity and uniformity that is just what people look for. So, there's the ingredients. The value for something like this is far higher than you would expect to break the stones out for. With a lot of pieces of jewellery that are made maybe in the 1950s and 60s, they are described as what we call break-up. You look at the content of diamonds and think, well, the mount's not particularly beautiful. And all I would reckon it at is the break-up of the stones. No way on something like that. That is going to fetch a price based on its beauty and its wearability. I think if this was being sold in auction, it's going to make something in the region of £3,500.
That's lovely. It's lovely. It belongs to my daughter, so she will be very pleased.
Well, they were given to my great-grandfather, who was chef to Edward VII and Queen Victoria at the end of her reign, by the crowned heads of Europe, and some of these are the Russian pieces.
Amazing. Now, do you think that they were objects given almost as a sort of thank you to this?
That's right. Yes.
And is this all the things that you have? Are there any more?
No, I have some other pieces which come from Manuel of Portugal, Kaiser Bill.
All the visitors to Sandringham, all the visitors to Buckingham Palace, all the cousins of the British royal family that are descended from Queen Victoria.
That's right,
in a sense, she's a fountainhead of this sort of European royal society. Let's have a look at those. These are Russian ones, and a pair of gold cufflinks set with rubies and diamonds, alternating rubies and diamonds, in a sort of nugget effect.
Nugget, that's what I've always been told, yes, gold nuggets.
And there's a most marvellous word in Russia used to describe this, which is called samorodok, which means a nugget. And it's a very, very Russian technique, much favoured by Faberge. And in fact, these are not by Faberge, and the lid satin rather conveniently tells us that they're made by somebody called Ivanov, working in St. Petersburg. And it's certain that they are a gift from the member of the Imperial family, because the Imperial family's cipher appears above.
Yes.
And do you know exactly who gave those?
I think it was Tsar Nicholas.
He certainly came to London, and he certainly went to Sandringham, and there were many opportunities in which he could have offered those. Tell me about what you know about him as a chef. Why was he so favoured, do you think?
Well, he was a Frenchman to start with, and I understand he'd been chef to people like the Rothschilds and had been to Saltram in Devon. And Edward VII heard of him and wanted him to be his chef, and I think he may have poached him.
What did he look like? Do we know what he looked like?
Yes, I have a picture here.
Oh, isn't it marvellous? And with his
of
family?
His family, with mother, with his wife, and the two daughters, my grandmother and my aunt.
Oh, that's very touching, isn't it? My goodness.
Yes,
he looks quite sort of...
avuncular.
Well, doesn't he? He's a brilliant chap, I must say.
Yes.
And so these were his things. Well, let's just run through them a little bit further. Have you thought about these ones here?
Well, I have been told that they were cufflinks, but they have little rings on, as you can see just there. And I really don't know. I imagine because they were given to my great-grandfather, they must have been cufflinks, I feel, and because he only had daughters, possibly the daughters had them made into brooches or pendants.
I think what has happened, and rather sadly, is that when these adaptations have been made to turn them into brooches, that the marks had been lost. But these are very characteristic of Faberge's work. We call this guilloché enamel, and it's an engine-turned gold mount that's flooded with translucent pink enamel. And then the imperial eagle is applied as a gold cipher over and above that. In every way, they're positively reek of Faberge. But in stamp collecting terms, I can't be absolutely certain. But I can be certain about this one. And does the family history say that that was an imperial gift?
They do. They do say, the family told me that that was definitely given by Tsar Nicholas.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt about that at all. And there's absolutely no doubt at all that this is a full-blown Faberge brooch. It is.
Oh, wonderful.
It's signed.
Because I wondered, and I sort of half hoped it would be, and that's marvellous. Yeah,
well, it's a most distinguished thing. Again, the use of the guilloché enamel, yellow enamel in this case, and two colours of gold, little laurel wreaths, and tied with a diamond bow, emblematic of peace, and the Romanov crown set with diamonds and circled with pearls. And we know it's Faberge because on the back here, there's the workmaster's initials for August Holming, who was not necessarily a specialist jeweller, but a worker in all manner of enamel work. So goodness me, and there's more at home. There's more souvenirs.
Yes, well, a few more. Yes, a few more.
Now, as for value, the cufflinks are impressive. They're very Russian technique in the manner of Faberge, but a rose by any other name smells as sweet, but it certainly isn't as valuable.
No.
And I think with an imperial provenance, nonetheless, they are very desirable, very wearable. And a very precise provenance, so I suppose something like £7,000 or £8,000 for the cufflinks.
Really? My goodness gracious me.
Nothing to do with intrinsic value, nothing at all. These, I believe them to be Faberge from a technical basis, really, and as souvenirs of Nicholas II, which is absolutely certain. I think we can go a bit mad again. £8,000 to £10,000 for those. You feeling calm? It's very, very good, isn't it? Making me nervous.
Things that I don't really want to sell, you see. No. I want to keep, and yes, because they're family pieces.
Well, I think in a way they should be kept together as a collection.
Should they? That's what I wanted to ask you.
Everything here and provenance, actually. And what about this one? Any ideas for that one?
Well, if these are that price, that must be £10,000.
Well, it is £10,000, and it's more than £10,000.
Is it?
Yep. It's £15,000.
My dear chap, God.
Gosh. It's wonderful.
That's amazing. I never realised it would be as much as that, I must confess.
No. They were my mother-in-law's, and they were in the bank. And it wasn't until after her death, 12 years ago, that we discovered this jewellery in the bank. So
I'm going to start from the most recently made piece, and then I'm going to go backwards. I'm going to start with this one here. Emerald and diamond brooch, that very geometric, rectangular look would date that to Art Deco. This is absolutely right for around about 1930.
Yes.
And during that time, you know, firms like Cartier and their contemporaries were making very, very linear looking jewellery. But the emerald in the middle of this piece is a lovely, dark, blue-green colour, and it's just the kind of colour that the market most looks for. Now, the earrings here, emerald and diamond earrings, are a totally different thing. They are in Victorian gold and silver settings, where the stones themselves are individually mounted up in gold, and they've got diamond frames where you've got these old Victorian cut diamonds, probably around about the start of Victoria's reign, 1840, 1845. Now we move on. Look at that.
They are superb, aren't they? They're stunning.
Wonderful. Emeralds in canateel gold settings. Canateel is a word that we use to describe this kind of very complex filigree scroll work. Now, if I can turn it over and have a look at the back of it, there's the canateel work, and there at the bottom is a hook. And suspended from that hook might originally have been something like a larger cluster. The stones themselves are individually foiled. And that's another thing to bear in mind. They've got this uniformity of bright grass green colour, but we might find that if you were to remove one of those stones, it has a tin foil behind to enhance the colour. The actual necklace itself, we can date to round about the reign of William IV, that sort of period.
Really?
So it's that early.
Gosh.
I'm very taken with that. So, value. Now, the Art Deco brooch is wearable, top quality, platinum mounted. At auction, it would probably go up to round about £2,500 to £3,000. The earrings, emeralds and diamonds again, I'm noting the old cut of the diamonds, but they are exquisitely commercial. One would be expecting them to make maybe 4,000 or 5,000. Moving on to the necklace, I think that if it was offered at auction, it would probably make about £8,000.
Really?
Yeah. So add those together, something approaching £15,000 to £20,000. I'm thrilled you bought them. Thanks very much indeed. Thank you.
My wife had it for, I don't know, 5, 6 years. It's probably come down through the family. She was quite happily wearing it as a bit of costume jewellery.
Bit of costume jewellery?
Yeah.
And what did she wear it on?
Denim jackets.
Denim jackets.
Anything that she thought, nice sparkly thing. And then we took it to a jeweller's in Chancery Lane to get the clasp sort of repaired a little bit. And he turned around and said, "You do realise it's the real thing?"
The real thing.
And so she's not worn it since, more's the pity.
Diamonds and denim.
Yes,
She really
exactly.
thought a bit about the design.
I did notice that the two ends unscrewed, but that was...
Well, they unscrew because there was probably not only this brooch, but a cascade of them running the front of a lady's fiercely corseted dress in about 1900. So you think your wife had problems. Think of Princess Yusupova walking around with this. Not bad, is it?
No, not bad at all.
Not bad. Now, I say Princess Yusupova because I can tell that this is a Russian brooch by the safety clasp. There's a strange little sort of twist like a question mark at the end, which is a brilliant device because it stops the owner pricking her finger, or more accurately, her lady's maid pricking her finger, because you've never put this sort of thing on yourself in pre-revolutionary Russia. What we call a stomacher, because it runs along the front of the stomach of such a lady. I can't think how it could have been more beautiful. Why? What's the look? And just underneath here, there's a break in the design, which I think is where the second and third, and I don't know how many more brooches went down to meet it. A tiny little groove here, and also observe the beauty of this gallery here, the Pierce gallery, and the fact that the back of the brooch is made of gold, and yet the front is of platinum to give the whiteness of the effect. I think it's probably quite a late brooch. It's 20th century. The Russians, it's curiously sort of feudal life they were living there, and in the early 20th century, things couldn't be more sumptuous and more bejewelled and more exotic, really. So this is a fantastic context, really, isn't it? I'm just going to look a little bit for hallmarks. Russian hallmarks almost always appear on the clasp of the jewel and along the pin, which is strange, and yet there are more here. And it's jolly good that I did check that, actually, because there are the initials of the maker there, Theodore Laurier, who is a very well-known Art Nouveau jeweller, making things in the manner of Lalique, serpents and butterflies and that sort of thing. So this is a slightly conventional one for him, but a very beautiful one. Now, what did the jewellers have to say about it? They must have admired it very much, I think, didn't they?
Well, they did, yes. They said it was a lovely piece, and...
Yeah.
And... he even turned around and said, "I'll give you 5,000 scrap for it." I said, "No."
5,000 scrap?
I said, "No,
Wow.
I don't think so."
No, well, I think scrapping it's not the right word.
Exactly.
I think we've gone beyond scrapping.
No,
it.
it's
Now
too beautiful for someone to break down.
Fabulous context. Well, you know, if he's going to offer you £5,000 scrap for it, double it up for insurance. £10,000 for insurance, yeah.
Dear me.
I inherited it from my aunt, whose husband gave it to my aunt during their marriage, but I don't know the history of it apart from that.
It's an interesting cluster ring. When I first saw it, I thought to myself it's going to be something like a topaz or one of these brown stones. Yes. Sometimes you get things like brown sapphires. Yeah. It's a diamond in the centre. And on this side we have another one in white. But the thing about this ring that's most interesting is this one, because this is a bluey green one. All diamond set, but all different colours. And from my point of view, seeing coloured diamonds, well, it always is very exciting because coloured diamonds are extremely rare. This one is almost a sort of yellowish brown colour, but this one is the one that's quite exciting because one of the rarest colours that you can find are blue, and even rarer is the colour green. The surrounding line of diamonds around the three principal stones is a different period from the three centre stones. I think it's certainly Victorian, this cluster, with this type of silver setting, this nipped-in setting here. But when we look at the three principal diamonds, we see that they're all claw-set stones. The diamonds themselves are cushion-shaped Victorian cut stones, and I think they were probably cut in maybe around about 1900 or 1905 at the very latest. As far as trying to value fancy diamonds is concerned, it is very, very difficult. There are so many subtle nuances of colour. You get greyish blue, bluish grey, greenish blue, bluish green, and what you have to do with them is to send them off to a laboratory where they will actually issue a certificate stating exactly what the colour is. Let's suppose that it comes back as being a natural, fancy green-blue diamond or blue-green diamond, and that they can say it with certainty, in which case I'm going to be very broad with my pricing here and say hopefully at least £2,500 to £3,000, but it could very well be worth £5,000 with all the right gradings.
Well, that's very good news. Thank you.
Now tell me exactly why you brought this brooch to the Antiques Roadshow.
Well, I was told it was valuable, but I wasn't just sure, and I came to get the truth.
The truth?
Wow. Truth.
Well, the truth, as you know, has to be used with great economy in life, and I'm going to tell it to you just as it is. What were you told about the stones in this brooch?
Well, I was told it was a brown diamond.
Mm-hmm. Well, they were absolutely right. It's a brown diamond and white diamonds at either end. And in a way, it's rather remarkable for that. We don't see coloured diamonds very often in life. To be perfectly honest, we don't see rather large diamonds in life very often, do we? Tell me, whose was it?
It was an aunt of mine, and she was the same name as myself, so I eared it.
Well, that's wonderful, isn't it? I'm just lucky you did have the same name, actually. We might have bypassed you. And it's not something one would want to bypass in life, because it's a very, very glamorous object indeed. I think it's worth saying about diamonds is that the white diamonds is what people really want. Blue-white diamonds even better. Then, when they look inside, they want to see it absolutely flawless in the inner depths of the stone, and they'll use a diamond glass to determine that, using quite a high magnification to look into the inner recesses of the stone. And then, of course, they look for sheer size in diamonds, and this is a very respectable size. It's probably about 2 carats, something of that sort. And it's a curiosity. Have you ever seen a brown diamond before?
No, and my aunt wore it, and she said it wasn't a diamond.
Well,
she said, that's not a diamond.
Well, I'm absolutely confident that it is, and it's a very exciting thing for me to see, actually. It is, of course, the hardest material known to man. It scratches every other material in the planet, and there's a guide to hardness called Mohs Guide of Hardness, where every stone is used to scratch another stone. The diamond is at the top of that, resplendent at the top. Whatever you do to it, you cannot scratch it. And then, second on Mohs scale is the sapphire. And the diamond is 7 times harder than the second layer down. But what we can say is that this is a remarkable thing to find today. And to tell you also that the cutting of the diamond is a 19th century, late 19th, perhaps early 20th century cut, and it's been put into a brooch rather later on. So it lived in another jewel before, as indeed its little partners at the end did. And it's a shawl pin for a very elegant lady in about 1900. So a remarkable object in every sense of the word. So we've got to get down to the nitty-gritty, the gritty hardness of diamonds and get down to hard facts about finance, go home, ring up the insurance company and say you want to cover it for £2,500.
Right. That's
Surprise?
Super. That's super.
Good.